All right, it's been a while. If you guys watch the Overwatch Reddit series for a long time on this channel, you know I always answer stuff from OverwatchUniversity, and I hadn't done it in a while because I took a little break to like catch up on Marvel Rivals, and I'm doing the series also on that Rivals channel separately, and I figured I actually enjoyed looking through the main Reddit there because they don't have a Rivals University, and I looked through this week's Overwatch University posts, and like the season is still new, not too many perk questions, and I feel like I've answered a lot of these over and over and over again over the past 2.5 years of doing the damn series. Like they always ask, how do I counter Sombra? How do I deal with Zarya? And I always answer the same thing. So let me know if you enjoy this version where I actually look through the main subreddit, maybe laugh at some memes, and maybe poke through some of the discussion pieces on the main subreddit and see if you guys like that. So yeah, here we go. So I try to filter the flare here for news, top discussion pieces of the week. And the first thing I saw, this was not really so much a discussion piece, but I saw this one right away and I wanted to answer this one. Is this allowed? I got reported for 5 people for stalling this point. And all this guy is doing is sitting on Oasis, grappled up to the top because Ball can permanently hang right now without losing his grapple. And he's sitting in the middle and nobody found him, and it's what, the 40%? And I think he stalled it all the way to 99. And he said he got reported for probably bug abusing, but like, let's be real. This is a new spot for those who don't know what it is, but this is perfectly legal. They're not bug abusing any spot. The onus is on the enemy for not checking inside. This is the equivalent of like those Junkrat players who can do that little like sitting emote, hiding in the bushes of certain maps like Iconwall. If you followed Overwatch 1, you know some of the really old cheesy payload stall spots. These are perfectly legal. I just thought this was funny, and maybe you as a ball player can implement this in your next game. Okay, so here's like the news and discussion piece. Loot boxes are back because Overwatch 2 wasn't rewarding enough, the director says. This is a whole article I won't go into, but let's just talk about this topic now. Loot boxes are back. How do you guys feel about this? Because for me personally, I'm not a cosmetic guy, so I'm really not like a great person to answer how people feel about it. Some people can argue it's gambling, a little bit of luck, but I think the bigger takeaway point was that loot boxes allowed people to get cosmetics like non-stop, and you took that away. And when you take something away from somebody that they previously had, they're a lot more resistant about it. The game director Aaron Keller says they just want people to feel good again and be rewarded again. And you can kind of see how over the course of the last, especially past year, they've walked back a lot of the changes they initially made. Like, we can criticize Overwatch where it needs to be criticized. Like, obviously they definitely fell very, very short in delivering the PvP promised by Jeff Kaplan in 2020. But I guess I'm a little biased in terms of like me actually meeting a lot of the developers nonstop. I have a very good relationship with them, but like you think like, hey, KarQ, kiss their ass. But if anything, every time I see them, they're like, KarQ, we need you to be, you know, you can be brutally honest. And they always tell all the creators that. With like, obviously, like if you're like slurring them and wishing death upon them, that's a different story. But like, you can be critical of the game. They don't take it personally because like, let's be, a lot of the dev decisions are like generally pretty good. It's actually like corporate that said, hey, we're putting this sequel, this monetization system, like that's a different department on how the business makes its money. And like, you know, I'm pretty sure corporate also, this is not quoted from them, this is just me guessing why they removed stuff like loot boxes, obviously the monetization system, why they removed things like, you know, MVP voting cards, on fire systems, like they neutered and diluted the game and simplified it. Because I think somebody higher up had some sort of analyst come in, because I think in like 2022, 2023, 2021, they had this whole like movement in big corpo where they're like, we need to over optimize the shit out of things because we need retention. What do people waste time on? If they spend more time upvoting people at the end of the game, it means less time in queues, which means less people playing, which means less money. And I feel like they overdid the shit out of that. Like that's statistics, and maybe that held true for a little bit because yes, they found that the churn rate, like people play more games if they cycle through faster. It's one of the reasons why casinos are also very optimized, right? In terms of like, yo, hurry up, like throw your dice for this game because they're trying to like keep getting people to bet to keep getting more money in. And like the difference is like gambling is gambling with money. People will always be doing that. But for a game like this, you can lose community and players' perception of the game, and they can go south real fast, which it did. People were like, why did they remove this feature, which was good? Why did they remove that? Why did they remove that? It all comes down to money and optimization, and they over optimize it. And I think Rivals coming out was like a nice fire in the ass, not to the Overwatch dev team, but to like Activision, Corpo, Blizzard to be like, listen, this competition is doing this right. They needed to see that because probably Activision Blizzard felt invincible for a while to show that like, listen, let's listen to the devs and listen to the community and like bring stuff back that made people feel good. less optimization. We need to win their goodwill back. And then it took that to bring it back. So yes, loot boxes are back. They needed to do things that felt rewarding, like getting giga upvotes and like MVP stuff and like on fire and showing your rank on the bottom left, which got removed. Now they brought it back because people want to show off how they feel. A good example is actually the Lord portrait on Rivals. Like, you know how many people talk about that, like having a different portrait on their name? All you gotta do is like play the hero for like 20 hours and you have a Lord portrait, but it's like a sign of respect. It's a sign of showing your progress, your progression on a hero. A Lord Loki, a Lord Spider-Man can mean very different things. But in Overwatch, they got rid of your rank portrait, right? When you queue into a crazy lobby, seeing everybody's ranks at the beginning was really nice. Or seeing, you know, when you go to a streamer and you see their emblem, top rank 242 on the bottom left of their name, like it elicits feelings that Overwatch 2 lost when they like diluted everything. And now they're bringing it back. Right now we do have ranked emblems again. Yeah, I feel like more control has been from Activision Blizzard has been given to the dev team. Next post is Overwatch 2 is finally earning the 2 in its name. It's actually another article, but let's just talk about the headline here. Do you guys think Overwatch 2 is finally earning the 2 in its name? Yes, but in a different name, in a different way. Obviously, the original idea of Overwatch 2, the 2 was to mark like the whole PvE and the whole new experience that came with it, but they had to like scrap that entire thing and then just kind of like spit out a refresh PvP. So yes, it's technically still just Overwatch. I do think they could probably get away with just becoming just Overwatch once again and cutting the 2. Like in terms of raw content coming out since October 2022, then yes, because with the addition of Stadium, like a mode that kind of stands alone, kind of like a COD Zombies, kind of like a TFT as an extension of League of Legends. Stadium and like these new systems like perks and everything could give it the 2 name and lets them deserve that name for sure. I can agree with that, but it took a little while to get here. It just took, you know, a lot of salty people and people who were not gonna forgive Blizzard to get here, but we made it, I guess, after all these years. But hey, the only thing you can do now is like, you know, you took a lot of steps back, but you can only move forward now. And this, luckily, we're finally going in a good direction. Next post here, replace May's detrimental wall perk with the speed boost ice skating. Okay, so I play Heroes of the Storm, right? And in Heroes of the Storm, you have May in that game too, because HOTS is Blizzard's IP, and they just grabbed, you know, their IPs, all the different IPs, and made characters in there. May has a talent in there where throw your primary fire on the ground and like just mark the ground with ice. You walk faster on it, and I'm kind of down. This actually seems like a much more fun perk than what this person calls a detrimental wall perk. And if people don't know what the wall perk is, it's the perk where May's wall lasts 2 extra seconds, but the cooldown is also 2 extra seconds. So if the wall is not destroyed, it will not naturally expire for a very long time, but it kind of feels bad because people will often break one block of it pretty early, which means like your cooldown will just be 2 seconds longer overall. So I feel like a lot of May players are not taking that perk right now, and this one seems like a nice fun alternative. And I was saying this in the other video where with my perk yap, where I do think they should take a look at some outlier perks that are just bad and producing bad win rates, or just people are not picking because it's not fun, and just not being afraid to swing the hammer and swing the bat and just go right in and just change shit that just isn't fun right now. All right, the next one, we're talking about perks. Which ones are the biggest perk outliers currently? So the biggest perk outliers I see from the games and community, first one is Tracer obviously needs nerfs. It's really funny that even their own subreddit is saying it feels wrong to be this OP. So this is in reference to this perk for Tracer, which is called Flashback, which is recall restores all your blink charges, which is incredible because you basically have 6 blinks, actually more, 7 or 8, because by the time you expend all 3 blinks, press recall, you get 3 blinks back, and then let the natural time pass as you space out your blinks. You realistically have 7, 8, 9 blinks if you do it right, which I think definitely needs a nerf. Maybe refund or like accelerate the cooldown of your next like blink or something, or your next blink is free if you have 0. Something like that. Sombras obviously needs new ones. I saw many agreeing that choosing no major perk is ideal to preserve both hack range and ease of hacking. That's crazy that choosing 0 perks is your best option. So I think the reason why is because this is your major section, by the way, your major perk. Hack can be used on allies to restore 100 health over 2 seconds. Even though it seems good because you have the option to hack allies, I think if your teammate walks in your LOS of hack, it breaks it. Your own damn teammate, which is so infuriating. And then your shit goes on cooldown too. Like, that's so bad. If they just make that so like when you walk over it, it doesn't break LOS, and this is definitely more pickable. And then they said the second one, you don't pick it to preserve range. Hack silence duration is increased by 100%, so they're a little bit silence longer, especially for tanks, but its range is decreased by 30%. So sometimes you don't always need the silence, but you want to like keep the range, and losing 30% range kind of sucks. So like these two kind of suck because they have huge downsides. So I think these are 2 outliers for sure they need to touch. Symmetras appear impactful to the reader, but 3 out of 4 are worthless to actual sim players. The extra sentry doesn't make sentries good. TP range doesn't change your inability to 1v1 even supports. Beam range only increases once you have it charged in close range, so it's like a win more. Regenerating shields equal to half a melee every second if TP stays alive. It's very minor, but is a major perk. Okay, interesting. Did not perceive that for sim. I didn't think sim was as big of an outlier as Sombra or Tracer. I think having an extra sentry turret, just an extra piece of cover, or sorry, extra deployable that somebody else has to destroy, is a natural space maker. It's an extra thing that can zap, deal damage, and slow. I think this is pretty good. Teleporter range being increased. This one's probably like less impactful than just having an overall an extra sentry at all times. Like this one seems like very good. This one could be kind of useful, like to kind of bring teammates back and just have like bigger agency on like where you want to place the TP. Like they don't seem that bad, to be honest with you. And this one is like a win more button, like you said. This one actually may not be as necessary, the range, because if you're already kind of like snowballing with level 3, if you can get to level 3 beam, you're already probably going to be winning the team fight anyways. And then this one is situational if you do like the TP bomb strat with regenning shields, but it's like an extra like pocket, a little bit of a tank button. It feels like the extra sentry feels more like a major perk than some of this, but like relatively speaking, these don't seem that bad, honestly. So like, I don't know, the sim players may know a lot better on how she feels, but like, I don't play Tracer or Sombra, but like I can feel the impact of this. And like, I played against a few Symmetras over my past like 70 or 80 games, and I definitely noticed the extra TP. I didn't notice the beam one because I don't think they took it. They took the regen shield, in which like as soon as like they TP the team and they make a play, like as an Ana, I like to throw a nade whenever I see like a sim TP, and like this just means like she's just a little bit tankier and she has a little bit more, there's a lot more beefier if she decides to like TP in and out. So I don't know, maybe a small tweak to the major ones. So yeah, I disagree with this. I think it just makes it better still. It's like 25%. It's just more turrets. Honorable mention, Ashe will need nerfs. I don't think so. Mora needs buffs. I don't think so. Updates from the comments. They said Lifeweaver got cucked while he's already the weakest. Zarya, Sojourn, and Bastions is too strong. Mei and Zen have a useless one like the wall and levitation, and Junkrat perks are junk. Interesting. So they summarize the comments, so I'm not going to scroll down. They think Lifeweaver got cucked. I think Lifeweavers are not bad, to be honest with you. Like what? This is the interesting thing about public perception. It's just very different across the board, and what you guys perceive, what I perceive, what many others may perceive. This one's kind of useless. Life Grip cleanses negative effects. Usually if you grip them, they're probably safe. They usually get healed anyways, unless they're antied, of course, and yes, it can cleanse it, but it usually puts them in a safe enough spot that like the cleanse isn't really that necessary, so I probably don't pick this one. Life Cycle is just an extra tank button. Regenerate 10 health per second permanently. Obviously, Lifeweaver is already a very safe hero. High HP pool of 275, has the platform to keep himself alive, has the tree, and he like has so much HP that like it doesn't feel as necessary, but it's a minor perk, and like in the worst case scenario where you do die, like it's a seed that only your teammates can pick up. I don't think these are that bad. This one doesn't feel very good. Rejuvenating Dash adds 20 healing to your next blossom within 3 seconds. So like in a specific tight spot, it could be kind of nice, but like generally speaking, a lot of times a lot of weavers will save their dash to save themselves, and it's not at a convenient time to like boost their next heal. Like if you're using it strictly to boost your heal in a specific situation, you lose that movement cooldown for a small thing, which is not very favorable. But I do think Super Bloom is kind of good, and it kind of incentivizes you to do a little bit more damage. It doesn't stick to shields and stuff, but like it gives you a little bit more offensive pressure, which can add up on a hero that's already very good at healing and very good at pocketing one specifically and feel very safe defensively. Like giving him a little extra oomph to fight off flankers and pressure the tank in the front line who's always walking in you is not necessarily a bad thing. So these ones don't feel like terrible outliers, so I disagree that he got cucked. But I guess relative to the others, well, actually I think Mercy got cucked harder and some of the Zen ones, but Zarya's rocket jump is great. Sojourn extra ammo is fantastic. Bastion is also fantastic right now. I think Torb is really good too. They didn't mention that one. Mei has a useless one. Levitation can only be useful on very certain maps if you want to float to a certain point. The first one that comes to mind is like Lijiang Tower on the bridge where you kind of float over and walk over to that part. Junkrat perks are pretty underwhelming as well. But yeah, these are my outliers that I could come up with and what these guys said. If you have any more in the comments, let me know. Next post. I am absolutely, and I cannot emphasize how unbearably sick I am of Sojourn. She is in, and I do not exaggerate, nearly absolutely every single match I play. She completely dominates in every single match she's in. The only exception is if the enemy has a better Sojourn. And because she's so absurd, pocketing her is basically mandatory, meaning now Mercy is almost a must pick. She is so game-breakingly overtuned, it's not even funny. This shit is not fun. It's just effing exhausting. That is a very interesting perception because I saw way more Tracers and Torbs in my limited time in, limited 78 games around mid-masters right now after the reset. which is pulling in a lot of like, I'm a little washed, but I was playing against some Overwatch League players, but then sometimes I'm playing against like actual Masters players and some like GM players. It's kind of strange how the reset kind of just pulled everyone together in this area. But in any case, I did see a lot of Soj, but not as much as Tracer and Torb and stuff, but it's still early. And I think Sojourn on paper has a terrible win rate, and I don't think she's actually that good for your average player, but she's definitely very, very powerful, having 60 ammo instead of 45, I think, right? Just means like she just gets higher uptime on like mass energy. I have seen some of the overclock one to like have good team fight wipes. I think you can take this one if you have like a mercy pocket the whole time and then just go for like a stronger ultimate, because your ammo not as necessary when you hit like damage breakpoints with a mercy pocket. I've seen a bit of the disruptor shot ones, but I actually see a lot more with the double slide, because there's a tech that people have recently figured out where you can triple slide. If you spam both of them, you can cross the map. And like if you get dove, like having double slide to like one slide away, you don't get as much height. You get dove, you slide down, they chase you, you slide back up. It's actually very, very good to play safe, play it safe. And obviously if they have no dive and they're not threatening you, then you can obviously take Adhesive Siphon. But I do think Sojourn is going to be a very, very strong pick in high ranks once people figure out that, you know, these perks are actually pretty good for her. But I think like the direction they originally took, where like, they want to make her better for your average player, but a little bit weaker for your high-end player, is fine. But yeah, I mean, like, see, I hear you, but like, I don't see it yet. This is 8 hours ago, and I haven't played Overwatch in like 3 days, so. Freja is the Huntress from Titan Project. So Titan was like the original like Overwatch concept, I think. Huntress, ooh, crossbow, multi-shot, imbued shot. Yeah, I mean, this is, everybody talks about Mama Hong, and I'm pretty sure one of the heroes from this original project eventually got split into Genji and Hanzo with the kits. We have Bastion here, the original Mercy. This is just a classic Blizzard thing with their projects. They'll take scraps and remnants of, you know, the scrap Project Titan that became Overwatch, and they took remnants and scraps of PvE and have like, you know, scattered it across many different pieces of content. One thing that's interesting is that one of the devs, I think at the Overwatch Summit, said actually a lot of the perk ideas were not scrapped from PvE. They were actually like newly theory crafted and whatnot. But we have seen remnants of the PvE being used in other aspects of the game, such as the Junkenstein event or whatever, where you had all the extra like giga perks. And you can see how Stadium also has like the ideas, not all of them, but some of the ideas of some of the power-ups and stuff that each hero can get were probably ideated on a ginormous creative board on some of the remnants of it, for sure. Not as much as people are giving them credit for, I think, is their takeaway point. But yeah, where's Mama Hong? I think that's what people want to see. That one people have been talking about on Reddit forever. They even brought back the Overwatch 1 play screen with Season 15. If you actually notice, they've been subtly like, this is the Overwatch 1 comparison, Season 15 current. Yeah, if you haven't noticed, they are like slowly bringing back things that they originally got rid of, which goes back to the first point of them diluting a lot of things, removing a lot of things for over optimization. But actually one thing I may have missed is that I think they had to change their whole like base system in the game, right? The new engine and whatnot, and they prioritized what they needed to prioritize, and like certain systems that got ported over were a lower priority for sure, like On Fire, MVP. Like they probably didn't like the analytics report were like, this didn't do anything, it helps our turn rate, just like low priority. And now they've like, they don't write everything in the patch notes, but like subtly a lot of things are going back to how they used to be in a lot of ways. So they're kind of like, they could sit there and like swallow their pride and, you know, double down, triple down nonstop on like, this was the decision we made and we're standing on it, we're gonna keep it. And then people have been bitching about, oh, like why did you get rid of this, why don't you bring it back? And now that they actually are bringing it back, and now people are saying, oh, Overwatch is desperate now. But it's like, pick your poison. You're gonna double down and continue to piss people off, or are you gonna walk it back and tank people saying you're desperate because they're actually finally like coming to their senses, and Activision Blizzard's coming to their senses. So like, to me, I'm like cutting them some slack, right? Like, I'm not saying they're desperate, I'm just saying finally, like, good job, rather than you're getting desperate, which is like such an annoying gotcha headline. I actually hate it. What is the best map in Overwatch, and why is it King's Row? It is absolutely not King's Row anymore. I loved King's Row in Overwatch 1 and 6v6. I don't love it so much in Overwatch 2. I actually think my favorite map right now is Lijiang Tower. Still an Overwatch 1 map, but Lijiang hits a little different than anything else for me personally. But King's Row is, you know, it's got like a dynamic high ground elevation. Doesn't feel like you have to lock into one single brawl comp. You can actually play like a little bit of poke. You can even play Winston and like a little bit of semi-dive on this as well. So like, yeah, I think the best maps are the ones that that can have a lot of different compositions. I think Lijiang Tower's map designs on all 3 points are different enough that you can also run different comps on each of those, which is probably one of the reasons why I like it as well. Oh, another one about the UI. Every season they keep returning to Overwatch 1 UI elements. Does anybody else notice this? As an example of the overtime UI, the same one we had in Overwatch 1, but they also brought back the Overwatch 1 italics font back from season 6. Not a big deal, but I'm confused why they do this. These aren't inspired by Overwatch 1. They're exactly the same. So this is Overwatch 2's release. And then recently in Overwatch season 15, they brought back this font. Overwatch 2's release. Oh yeah, they're all very like normal font like this. And then Overwatch 2 season 6 and beyond, they italicized it again. Things like that. Yeah, they also reverted the menu background back to the sparkly particle effect coming from the sides of the screen instead of the sliding gray box animation. Very interesting. But like, you know, font changes are not too big of a deal. I think this comment says it. They tried the new thing. People said they prefer the old thing, so they reverted it. And it kind of goes back to them being okay with walking back on decisions that didn't hit. It's probably way easier to do that, something like a font rather than a whole system like end cards. And this actually goes on to the point that I was making as well. I think a lot of people either forgot or never realized that the PvP of Overwatch 2 was made in like a year because they needed to bring out some sort of content, especially when they made the decision to scrap all the PvE. So they never had time to move over a lot of things like endgame cards, the new engine like I mentioned, and then had to focus on other areas of the game that were of a higher priority and then just slowly chip away at the stuff they want to slowly port over. Yeah, I agree. Final thing is good job, Overwatch. A lot of Overwatch glazing this week, but I think they deserve it finally. We can give them some credit where credit's due. Good job, Overwatch. The game feels so fresh and exciting. I can't even know what to say. You mean you don't even know what to say, but anyways. Loot boxes feel so right. The perks give so much depth to the game without feeling overpowered. I'm sorry, maybe English is not your first language. I want to mention the loot boxes are nice to have back, but I kind of miss the animation. I think when you open them, it skips them. And then the icon dun, 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 and all of them dropping down. It just like open and then like here's what you have. I think they will eventually add it. This is one of those things where like, okay, let's bring the loot boxes back sooner than later, and then we'll slowly add the animation back as well, rather than just sitting there and waiting on it until everything is fully complete. I feel like Overwatch is always about the heroes we play. The customization feels right, makes sense. I'm happy about Weaver, Orisa, Reaper, returned ability. It just makes sense. And yeah, Overwatch is back. Is Overwatch back? I would say so. I'm enjoying this season for sure. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you enjoyed this format more, where we could take a look at more generic threads instead of just answering gameplay stuff. And yeah, bye.